You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way.
Welcome to the party. I'm Warlord Scarr, the Herald of Destruction, and also all these idiots.
I'm Dave. Like talk some.
I'm Owen.
And yet again, for the 176th consecutive episode, I'm SavageMick, and I don't know what consecutive means. Scar, how you doing? How's things? Had a good week? All good?
We're all right. I managed to not waste my entire week haggling with random people over 2 copper pieces to cross the river. So, that puts me up on the internet.
We're
yes.
going early on that, are we?
Oh, well, our topic...
Okay. Funds, cost saving aside, what else has been sort of floating your boat?
Well, there's been that the wonderful Reddit argument about how do I stop my players from just killing the game by arguing over pennies, to finally catching up on whatever random point Ben Riggs had in the middle of January, where he was saying that the golden age of RPGs was dead, and that nothing but ruin and devastation was in our future, and how I just listened to him on his podcast, and how he actually does have a sort of a point about the death of 6th edition causing weird breakups in the RPG community, which so he actually has a point as opposed to just rambling for 50.
I think giving Ben Riggs the benefit of having a point on that particular topic would be putting you on the other side of the internet. You mentioned
Ben Riggs have a financial incentive for D&D to be the only RPG is my first question, Scar. And the answer to that one is yes. Ben Riggs worried about Ben Riggs.
Yeah.
But on a wider point, it's been a kind of a start of this year has been one for hot takes and talking heads. Would that be fair? That's going to be the title of this episode now.
We could try responding to any one of these wild, tweets or any number of controversial blog posts or all kinds of stuff. But rather than do any of that, gentle listeners, we think we're going to get a little bit more meta today. Let's talk about talking about RPGs as opposed to what we usually do. So basically, we're just going to take shots at all our competitors for the next 30 minutes.
Competitors. I'm not sure we rise to that level.
That's a word.
It is an interesting period of time. We find ourselves all times periods are interesting. Yeah. But we do. It does. I mean, Owen, you brought in this just savage tweet based on a Reddit post, based on presumably there's something that happened on 4chan or a school bulletin board or something about a GM who was having problems with a certain player activity. Do you want to just illuminate us on that one before we go on?
I just saw it and it had me laughing like a psychopath for about like a solid few minutes. I'm just trying to pull it up now so I can read this out verbatim.
Well, no, we'd prefer it word for word. But just wait until you've got it in front of you, and then we can go. Yeah.
So I'm running a campaign, and it's always very nice until the players have to pay for something. A few of them get a panic attack and immediately say, that's too expensive. Others say, can I not sleep outside? Frowny emoji. Or, if they have to rent a boat to get to Cragmaw Castle, they spend 1.5 hours haggling through 3 different ships. Using intimidation, I just ignored after the 8th time and had the police involved 2 times. They ended up paying, but they always waste time. They once wanted to buy bug spray, parentheses, I don't know why, and had to spend 4 minutes to argue price. 2 copper pieces. Is there any way to solve this? Also, the whole group is like this. Also, somehow some players complain about it being too boring. a series of exclamation and question marks. Now, you will occasionally get this kind of madness popping up in anything, and like you're kind of like, okay, this is the standard silly question that gets asked, and then you start to get into the responses, which again are completely failing to load for me. Elon Musk, you have ruined this utility. But it boils down to someone coming on and doing the, hello, I'm a paternal YouTube discusser. I'm going to explain to you how everyone has their different kind of fun. And maybe you've got to respect that kind of fun and embrace that kind of fun. And I'm going to sit here and take a draw from my pipe and patronizingly explain to you what you should do. And the response to that was, no, they all hate it. They all hate haggling. And that bit is the bit that had me crying laughing. Because
That is a head scratcher.
everyone hates this. We're all doing it all the time. Can you imagine this? Like, oh god, tactical combat. I hate this so much. What are we playing? 4th ed D&D. God almighty, every day is torture. We all hate it. Every last man of us hates this. Hates it like poison. What are we playing next game? 4th edition D&D. Damn it! Who does this to us?
It's Ben Riggs. He's like, yeah, that's the edition of D&D we're on. Just keep playing it. It'll all get better. Fine.
It's just incredible stuff. It's
man, yeah. It's just the further you go into it, the funnier it gets because it's such a banal problem. Usually, I mean, there are YouTube channels dedicated to role-playing horror stories, but this one doesn't rise to that level because no one's being a complete psychopath, but collectively they're all completely mad.
yeah.
Man,
this group has just
Greater than the
decided
sum
that
of their
they're all
parts.
doing this and they all hate it, but they're all going to keep doing it for some ungodly reason. And they all know they hate it. That's the mad thing.
I don't know why it's so funny.
But yeah, it's one of those frustrating things where like you just want to like. I see something like this, and I just want to like reach through the internet and grab the people involved and say, like, what is? But you can't do that because it's on the internet. You only have the lens that is given to you by the poster, and therefore, so many people are just left to wonder, like, well, why is it happening this way? And this is part of the issues with our social media based gaming community that Ben Riggs is so afraid is going to fall apart. That just like we all want to comment on these kinds of crazy stories. We all want to give our sage advice or dig for further details, but like that. All attempts to solve this very personal, pernickety problem is just kind of lost in the digital waves because you're one of 10,000 people commenting on the post, or 200 people upvoting it on Reddit, because apparently it did a lot less power on Reddit where it came from rather than on Twitter where everyone suddenly had a hot take.
In the parlance, it had less traction on Reddit. It didn't gain the eyeballs, and it has gone viral on X. Dave, any thoughts?
Any thoughts? Yeah, I suppose what comes to mind is that people could fall into like traps with fancy adjectives in front of them, like where nobody is happy with the situation, but the incentives and disincentives have just worked out that way, and and unless they recognize that and make an active effort to change, they're stuck there until somebody snaps and quits the table.
Yeah, or yeah, you could say that about social media as much as you could say about a game.
Okay, to drag us back to, well, not the point, but to drag us back to the framing of all of this. What we have is an ecosystem now where talking about gaming is probably, in some cases, more profitable than gaming or even making games. But it does sit on top of that requirement that somebody does something gaming related and then somebody else talks about it. Be it Ben Riggs, he's a historian. I mean, he had a bad day in January, but he's generally noted as sort of being a voice on the history of D&D. People like Matt Colville weighing in. Big kind of recognizable commentators, but not necessarily the smartest guys on any given topic. But they've got a following, so people pay attention. You've got Indestructible and all the rest. Lots of whom made, speaking of Indestructible, lots of whom made hay during the OGL debacle from last year. So it felt like that was the moment when the gaming commentary ecosystem really woke up. And so far haven't gone back to sleep, and on occasion have jumped on red meat that just wasn't there.
I mean, the explosion of podcasting is definitely a factor there. Like we were first in many ways, and but like the places that got big doing podcasting, and podcasting is reactions to RPGs and stuff. I'm like, okay, but then there's podcasts and reaction content to content, which is like
guilty as charged.
Contentception.
Yeah, it starts to get a little bit. It's a little bit
okay. Maybe I didn't have a good topic for this recording, but you know what? It feels like a good time to talk about it.
Think about that for a second. That you've got Critical Role, and I get why people like Critical Role, but then you have podcasts about talking about Critical Role.
Like Critical Role has a podcast about talking about Critical Role.
But then people probably have a podcast talking about the podcast talking about Critical Role. Now I get it. I understand, like, you want media to talk about the stuff you're interested in. But at a certain point, I'm like, guys, this is a bit too recursive for me. Like, I like a bit of analysis on my stuff, talking about what's going on, absolutely. There are things I dip in and out of because I don't know a lot about them, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn a little bit here. But, like, it's mad to me, them people talking about, RPGs and going, oh, we're going to predict what happens. I was like, it's an RPG. What happens with the players and the GM decide happens. It's not it's wacky for that reason. I get it. It's content and people will do content. I do wonder who makes money on it and who doesn't, because the monetization across different platforms is very different, as I recall. And how many people are grinding out trying to identify a niche and go, okay, if we go super hard on this, maybe we'll become millionaires. Like, how many people are breaking their backs creating content
or pay rent? I'm not sure the stakes are that high. So obviously, folks, if you want to wait around for our Adventure Party After Hours analysis podcast, this podcast, you'll be able to find us on Spotify, on Hulu, on TiVo, it is kind of. I think as with so many things, the internet RPG industry has aped another form, because what a lot of this starts to sound like is those after episode shows that analyze the show. Like I know Game of Thrones had it, and The Walking Dead had it, where you just have this Z-list nobody who would start interviewing the people who are on the episode and talking about the stuff that just happened in the episode. And it is down to serving that kind of thirst for more that the insatiable content devourers that are the general public, myself included, have sort of willed into existence. And it's on podcasts and it's on cable television or whatever now, but it used to be fanzines. It used to be fan magazines. Like if there was a popular TV show, it would have a magazine where you could go and learn more about the TV show. You learned practically nothing. But these days, it's kind of a collection of talking heads on a couch, talking about how excited they were to do the scene that you just saw months ago. And for them, they gin up the enthusiasm. But then, of course, there is the reaction kind of economy. And the thing I'm alluding to is this story that did the rounds at the end of January, or was it the start of February? I can't remember now. Where everybody on role-playing commentary YouTube went nuts over the fact that it looked like Tencent were going to buy D&D off WotC. The whole thing being mediated by Larian, who developed the new Baldur's Gate 3 game. Is it a year? Out a year? No?
Probably about a year at this point.
6 months? Okay.
Not quite a year.
I still haven't finished Act 1. That's why we've no review of it, folks. I haven't finished the damn game. I've been too damn busy. Or confused. But that's a story for another time. And as it turns out, there was absolutely no meat to this, but everybody went for it on role-playing YouTube. And it was similar when there was all sorts of kerfuffle over AI art being used in this or that ad for a product. And that turned out to be more or less untrue. And everybody went for it. Retractions don't get printed quite as loudly or half as often. But it just strikes me that we now have a kind of a baseline of where's the money? Owen, you're asking? The money isn't being first. Be first with the news, get the reactions, get the eyeballs. But of course, being first means that you'd leave no time for actually developing an opinion or figuring out if it's true. And that's where we are now. We've got a kind of a reaction economy that is jumping at shadows.
Well, also, it's about optimizing and finding the perfect thumbnail art for your YouTube video, which is, I think, the most debased and degenerate thing. You at least make, something. It's not like,
hey, that's not true anymore.
People clip holding their head at the same angle every time because that's the one that got the most views, and like you've got to clip out unrelated people who are not going to appear in the video or in the picture, it's debased. It's oh my god! It's all these perverse incentives that have been built into the system that you have to do it like this. Watsy shocks everyone by murdering 20 employees live on stage.
Clickbait titles and all that.
That actually happened.
They killed that Dragonlance movie or TV show or whatever it was going to. I think at the end, look, that was going to be a live reading once of an unfinished pilot script. With Joe DiMaggio and who else can we get in? That lady from the Daredevil TV show. Yeah, that's the star power.
Joe DiMaggio voices Bender, right?
Something like that.
Look, I'm going to agree to disagree with you.
Fair enough.
It was
my shiny metal.
Right.
This is a bold take on Rastalin.
I know. Do we have anything useful to say about this? Oh man. Okay. Bold take on Rastalin has to be Danny DeVito. Like, just think about it. Channeling something.
Sunny in this.
Always sunny in Dragonlance. Okay. So I think this has gotten wildly off the rails. Do we care?
Okay.
Here's the thing. Not do we care, but how do we think it's twisting the actual kind of role-playing scene? For the real people.
Do you guys watch any of it?
Yeah. I'm guilty of watching more or less, but I'm definitely learning over the last 3 or 4 months to filter heavily because at the end of the day, it's just a lot of people's opinions, and I mean, I know what mine is worth.
Like, will watch gameplay videos. I will watch, if there's some mechanic I'm interested in, I will dig into that. Like, I will occasionally watch, show me this deck list to explain what this is doing. I will occasionally watch that. I will occasionally watch, here's how you handle this particular tough bit of content. I will watch that kind of stuff. I will watch occasionally kind of preview vids of something if I'm very interested in it. But like reaction stuff, maybe. But most of the time I find it the analysis a little bit, I don't want to say facile. I want to say facile. Yeah, it's facile. It's kind of like, oh, this is happening, and I'm like, okay, give me an explanation of why it's happening, please. No, you can't do that. All right, awesome. Because, okay, what is the job of journalism? Right?
To uncover the truth.
Absolutely, but it's also to explain what's happening to people who aren't paying attention. Right? So the whole point is to try and break it down and go, okay, I'm going to explain this. This has happened. I am now going to explain the context of why this is happening. Because you can't pay attention to everything that's happening in the world and have a fully functioning understanding of everything. You're meant to go, this is what's happening, this is why it is happening. You can now make your own judgment on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'll provide some context as to why you might think one way or the other. That's what great journalism does. It breaks down and explains why something has happened. If I wanted to have a press release reread to me, I can go read the press release. Or I can go and find someone in YouTube to read the press release for me. And the analysis and the press release reading are often end up being kind of a similar thing, you know? I can go find content I like. Like if maybe I find someone who will always bash Watsy and I can always have fun listening to that. That's grand. It's whatever. It's inoffensive content. But the best stuff is actually analysis that gets into, okay, why is this actually happening? Like what's going on here?
And that unfortunately takes a lot longer.
And it's a lot more skill intensive. It requires more than just reading the press release and then reading the press release again.
And offering opinion based on.
It's also not as quick to produce by quite a margin, I imagine.
Like if you're a psycho and you're completely enmeshed in the stuff constantly, you can probably dash out an immediate explanation of why this is happening. Okay, this is happening because of this. And that's great when you can find someone doing that. When you can't... Ugh.
So, and that's a really interesting point because, yes, you do come across good analysis in other places. And as you say, those people who are pumping it out on the daily do tend to be enmeshed. But of course, there is very much a standoff between those who even with genuine sort of commitment would like to produce that analysis, and the companies and people that they're trying to produce that analysis about. You see exactly the same thing in the video game industry. And in more mature entertainment industries, you don't see it as much. Hollywood talks to reporters. Theatre and publishers talk to reporters about the stuff that they're doing. Video game industry, very, very hard to get actual kind of honest answers out of them. And I think increasingly you're seeing it in the RPG space, when the stakes become a little bit higher, or when the decision making becomes a little bit weirder. It is very hard to be plugged in to that industry in such a way as to be able to get good answers, to have a Rolodex or contact list of people who you can plug for an honest answer about what's going on. I think that's very much lacking, which is why most of the talking head space seems to sort of either latch onto rumors or, as you say, read the press release and offer opinion. Speaking of opinions I want to hear, let's go back to you, Dave.
Oh, right.
Not that I don't want to hear everyone else's opinion.
Oh, no, look, I know I'm special, but I use the word incentives again because, well, there's certainly incentive to create content. You say YouTube in particular. To use the biggest example, you're if you care about monetization, you have to bear the algorithm in mind. All hail the algorithm.
Oh man!
All hail.
Here's the thing, though. Isn't YouTube losing a whole bunch of 10-year-long content creators lately because they all just can't keep up with the algorithm's demands?
Well, that's another thing. But I think YouTube is banking on having younger and literally hungrier creators who are willing to think they can make it big by trying out hundreds of videos of indeterminate quality, and to a certain degree, they're right for so far.
Burnout, yeah. Well, look, this is it. At the pace that some of these guys are going and gals, they may very well face a sort of a burnout moment in their near future.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. A lot of the social media landscape itself is experiencing a kind of burnout at the moment. We don't need to go into the absolute shambles the last year on Twitter has been, but I mean, just stuff like there's the rise of the new social media and how it's eventually going to have the process, we might as well call it, this point of new people coming on and being great, and then they have to monetize it, and then it goes to crap. YouTube is ever marching onwards with this algorithm, and as I said, people are getting very tired of it, and it's an interesting situation where now the classic the classic blog is now becoming a more appealing thing, because at least with a blog, you're not getting spam with notifications, and you can pick and choose what of a content creator's nonsense you read. Like, we talk about how many of those OSR blogs I listen to, but like I very selectively pick and choose what posts I do. Most of them I can just pass over very quickly.
I just endlessly devour everything I come across, and usually I'll take a run at someone, see if the stuff is good long term, and then maybe add them to the list. It is funny, yeah. Blogs have, I suppose, in many ways, analysis and blogs go hand in hand. They take time to write. They require some research usually. And they are a little more forgiving on the time scale. I would reflect that probably one of the higher profile bloggers who's still out there in the role-playing space is the Alexandrian. And it's hard not to find a good Alexandrian post, because they're usually a bit better considered. Sometimes evergreen topics, sometimes very specifically about a product. And of course, that means that you have to sit with that product for a while, at least take the time to read it.
Or have and
play it. Yeah, exactly. And then discover what's wrong with it, and then do something about it. So weirdly, yes, it could be that the best analysis we can find in this fast-moving media landscape is when we slow down enough to actually sit and read something. And find
that's sort of the thing. It's like most of the social media content, like you could say that YouTube content is evergreen, but that's not how the algorithm pushes it to you. The algorithm is always pushing you to either watch everything's new, regardless of its quality, or rewatch something that you watched 1,000 times previously, because the algorithm gets confused when you like a certain clip or something, and use it for memes.
Oh yeah, I think you make a very good point, because look, we've long had a sort of an editorial stance here to produce a good sort of percentage of evergreen content, stuff that doesn't require us to be on the button about whatever just happened. And I've often chafed against that, but I think in the current environment, I'm definitely seeing the value in it. Listeners, there's plenty of stuff. You can go back a couple of years to long before myself and Scarr, anyone else here were on the show, and find some of the same topics being discussed, but in a different time, a different milieu. But some of that stuff does remain incredibly relevant today. It's why there's certain topics we don't cover that are quite obvious, because we can look at our long, what are we up to, 780 something episodes at this point, our long back catalogue, and go, oh, well, that's been talked about. Maybe there's some stuff we should reconsider in the modern age. But yeah, I think it's an interesting time to be consuming and looking for good news about the industry. But yeah, perhaps it's the old rules, the old rule of cool. The old rules are cool. We'll workshop that one, where it is he who speaks last might have the most to say. The most pertinent thing to say. No, that doesn't. Confucius was very good at this, and I'm not. This is kind of where I'm landing here.
I assume he took his time writing up all the stuff he was, and just dropping rhymes.
Time probably whittled down Confucius just to his bangers.
Yes. His tweets about the state of rice.
Hit like malice to nuts. Try that one again, Confucius. Yeah, Confucius is going to take another swing at that one. I will say on the Benrig stuff, there's a whole idea that the rising tide lifts all boats, and D&D's success is every other RPG success. I do not think it's true. I think the larger RPG industry does best when D&D shits the bed and people in desperation go out searching for something else to try. And the only time that happens is when D&D does something terrible or becomes awful. Because making people learn a new system is so difficult. When D&D is popular, everyone is starving or making D&D compatible content, which is not healthy. I came up in the mid-90s. There was a tremendous diversity of systems back then. You could have a system for everything: Connex, Deadlands, Vampire, there was one for everything. There was all different stuff. Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, you know, and like a lot of those games are not good games, but they all had their own unique setting. They all had their own unique mechanics. Again, many of them were bad, but there were some cool ideas. There was some good mechanics. Oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe we could pair that off and use that for something.
There were some gems there.
There were absolutely some gems there. But, like, that happened because D&D was at the very lowest ebb of its popularity. Late second ed, you know? And, like, you could go, the RPG industry is its safest when making D&D with freelancers earning a cent a word. Like, freelancer pay has gone down over the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's one game in town.
Down. People are making like 1 cent to 1, 2, 3, 4 cents a word. Like, God. Like it's becoming like less money for people.
Despite the biggest company in the industry raking in more money than ever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They hate payroll. They hate payroll more than anything.
I'll refer back to getting younger and hungrier content creators.
Yeah.
It applies to more than one context.
That's the churn. Right. Okay. Where does that leave us then? Well, obviously, check out our YouTube and our Discord. If you recommend us to a friend, please.
Okay.
I've noticed a big dip in the numbers. You got to pump those numbers. So if you have enjoyed, maybe not this episode, but if there was a previous episode you liked, be sure to pass it along. This one where we're just dunking. But I think we're dunking a little bit on everybody, including ourselves. Shane, Scarr.
You know, I guess this is this too shall pass. Like I guess is the thing. Like we're reaching a crest where a whole bunch of social media companies are flailing around and pushing perverse incentives around, but also a point where D&D is flailing around, and that's fueling the rumor mill and causing all kinds of perverse incentives in the talking head space. But as I say, the quality content is stuff that is timeless and has had thought and contemplation on it, and that's what's going to have value in the end. Ben Riggs' panicked hot takes are not going to be useful, but his well researched book on history, that's going to be useful. The Alexandrian's review of a random D&D module that 3 people play, not useful. His wide array of topics with 20 years of GMing advice behind them, that's going to be useful. We live in the middle of the storm, so we don't yet see the the soil being fertilized. What is valuable of this will come through in the end, but maybe have an umbrella, I guess is where I'm going with that.
Nothing cools as fast as a hot take, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Off the back of all that, any content creators we'd like to recommend that we think kind of rise ever so slightly above the noise in the role-playing space?
Oh, I was going to say there's a bunch of great painting tutorial people out there. That mediocre hobbies is an Irish guy who's doing some very good stuff on basically simple, productive painting tutorials things. You've got Peachy from X of GW who split off to do his own thing at the moment. There's tons of guys out there. Like if you actually want some skill stuff, there's tons of good practical. I'm not sure how to do this. Watch this. Oh wow, this makes this a lot more approachable and understandable, and that's always good. For the more ephemeral D&D stuff, I mostly don't listen to it. I'm a vet. Much of it comes off as very surface level to me. That's basically it.
I suppose we could plug some of our friends. We're not friends with Alexandrian, but we are friends with Seed of Worlds on Blogspot, who's taking a nadir of D&D fan perspective on modern gaming, how to balance OSR versus, modernity, reviews, collating of internet advice. I find it's a very useful service to have Seed of Worlds.
Seed, of course, has been on the podcast several times. He's our data cruncher, our number monkey, and a very knowledgeable guy. But to hell with that guy. What about Jason over at Nerds RPG Variety Cast, who you can find links to his episodes over in our Discord on Stuff From Our Friends. Jason's one of our longest term listeners, very, very loyal and outspoken member of the Discord, and we do love him. And then there's, I think it's Charlie X is also there. He's occasionally posts in the Discord. Oh, not occasionally, we hear from Charlie all the time. How you doing, Charlie? Mm-hmm. But he's also got some content out there. I'm trying to think. There is a late entrant, although he's flew under my radar for quite a long time. Someone I know on and off in real life who's covering the Imperial Epic scale stuff. Optimal. He's got a YouTube channel. I don't want to mention his name here. Is Optimal Game State. That's it. Optimal Game State on YouTube, covering all things. I believe his remit is GW specialist games. And right now that means the new Epic 40k Heresy line. Is that right?
Yeah, Legions Imperialis, the new Epic equivalent. Which I played a game with them, and it was good.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, okay, let's do some cross-pollination here. How'd it go?
It's very good. A lot of fun. I did not have... He had barely enough painted. I had not enough painted, so he cobbled something together. It was good, though. It's a throwback to a lot of second edition Space Marine Epic, but it's good. It's alternating activations. It's kind of hidden orders, and you reveal your orders, and away you go, kind of activating back and forth in different phases. Feels very tactical. Feels kind of like you can very, very bloody. So you can start out with quite big armies on turn 1. And then by turn 3, you've both probably got quite small armies as you've shot the hell out of each other.
Last few survivors.
Infantry spam would probably be a problem, but you'd have to paint all that infantry, so nobody's going to do that. So it's probably going to be okay from that point of view.
Just the name of that's Optimal
Game State.
Game State.
YouTube channel also has an Instagram and so on where in progress art is oft posted.
And great production values as well. Quite unlike this effort. I also want to give a shout out on Twitch to Kiffer_Geo. I don't think we've had Kiffer on the show yet. Was he former host?
He's been on an episode or two. He's been on an episode.
Yeah. Oh, he has, of course. Yeah. But he's plugging away, continues to plug away at all of the various RPG, CRPG, computer RPG entrants, lots of retro stuff. Quickly catching up. I don't know what, maybe by the end of this year, he'd be ready for Baldur's Gate 3, having played everything else.
He's playing Baldur's Gate 2 at the moment.
Yeah, spicy.
Classic.
All right, okay. I think that's probably a good place to leave it. Yes, it's a bit of a washout in terms of content out there. It's hard to keep up with the deluge. But if you can sing along while there are raindrops falling on your head, then every so often you should come across a splash of inspiration or at least informative content. And I hope we'd add our drop to that ocean at some point. Man, that was a good run. It was pretty good right there. No? All right. Someone take us out of here.
And this party is in fact over.
Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. Join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license. but you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye. You can compare notes on Palworld. Have you played Palworld?
I played a little bit of Palworld, yeah.
I played a little bit of Palworld. Do you know who hasn't played any Palworld?
The boy?
Anyone under 30, as far as I can tell.
Oh,
Like,
no.
kids don't give a rat's ass about it. They're all playing Fortnite.
Interesting.
Like, my kid, like, there's nothing on his YouTube, because he has his own YouTube sort of curated, because our interests do not intermingle to quite that extent. He's not much for Middle Eastern political analysis, weirdly enough.
Strange.
But so I get to kind of dip into his YouTube account every so often and just kind of look at it and go, right, who is trying to pollute my child's mind? And no one out there that is targeting him is covering Palworld. It's all, perhaps they're afraid of Nintendo or something, but it's all Fortnite and Minecraft.
How much cultural cachet does Pokemon have for them? Because if it has zero cachet for you, like, why would you give a shit about something that's kind of both parodying and kind of trying to expand?
Because it's such a meme game, and meme games, like, he plays plenty of meme games. They're usually some sort of weird horror riff with graphics that would make an Amstrad blush. But he does play them. He's obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's, Poppy Playtime, Bendy, and the Ink Machine. The franchises I'd never... Five Nights I'd heard of, but franchises I've never heard of with multiple entries and very technically polished. I had to laugh, though. He picked up the latest episode of Poppy Playtime, which is sort of set in a think Chuck E. Cheese gone wrong, factory style thing. But they have literally ripped off the riffs from the original Half-Life, when he crashes a train, gets knocked out, finds himself in a trash compactor. I'm like, that's just Half-Life. That's the middle portion of Half-Life. That happens. But so it's kind of weird. But the Pokemon parody has not taken off with that crowd. But it has certainly taken off with 6 million sales.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm a little surprised that it's gone those sales without, the younger demographic involved. Like,
they got no money. They're spending all on V-Bucks. We'll see how that one. I mean, it's a flash in the pan game, and everyone kind of lost their minds after the first week, going, "This is a Pokemon ripoff." It's like, yes, clearly it was a Pokemon ripoff from the moment it was announced. It had a massive Pikachu in it. But what's even more interesting for me, we're in danger of doing another episode here, is Microsoft looked at that. Microsoft looked at that and went, "Yeah, stick that in Game Pass. That's no problem." Given how litigious Nintendo are, and they don't appear to have said much about this game, like, Microsoft must have known that if I don't know what the secret sauce is for what does or does not constitute copyright infringement, but they clearly signed off and it went, yeah, put that up, and it's done very well for them. But I'm baffled. Like, why this hasn't been cease and desisted into the ground is beyond me. But Microsoft clearly went, yeah, we'll back that.
I mean, it's
mental.
Like the first time I saw I saw a thumbnail of it in passing, and I just assumed this was a Pokemon game that somehow has guns in it. I didn't think any more of it, and then I started hearing the name again and again, and looked at it and realized, this isn't Pokemon. These are pals.
Pals, yeah.
It could be skating on parody stuff. I would assume that might be the factor.
Yeah, maybe if it's making fun of anything, it's making fun of the stagnation that Nintendo have allowed in what, like, they should have done this sort of stuff years ago. Open world Pokemon survival stuff, absolutely. I don't know about the guns, but the rest of it's genius.
Pokemon gotta make a game every year. That's why Pokemon.
Yeah, it's just the same damn game as far as I can tell.
Gotta make a game every year, so the merch lines up with the.
We're still recording.
Yeah, I know. This is good. Hey, if you've listened to after the credits, then this is your reward.
It's a bonus episode for the Patreon, all right?
Yeah, we really do kind of appreciate you guys sticking around. We know we don't have a lot of listeners, but we're very loyal listeners, and I'd prefer to talk close friends, even virtual ones. Anyway, enough of that chutzpah. At Schmaltz even.
You know what I'm working on at the moment? I'm working on some
What?
crazy shit at the moment. But I'm playing a Psionicist in a 2nd edition AD&D game. I'm going to bring you guys a trip report from playing a Psionicist.
Do that, yeah.
It's one that doesn't actually exist in the modern era at all. Every time they're like, Mike Merle's the British game designer. Hey, baby, you want to play a Psionicist? Just play a wizard and call the spells psionic spells. Ooh, yeah, I'm the jazz of game design.
Groove it.
Super lazy, super lazy. Super
Daddy-O's hot.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
I
hate that so much.
Palworld, great game, also terrible game. That's I think that's going to be, and it is a meme game, and I think we're in for a lot of that this year. Right, I got to go to a thrift fair and get my Macklemore on. What are the rest of you doing with your Sunday?
I'm also doing this party and also editing a podcast because I haven't finished that yet.
Did you not get the? Okay. Anyway,
I'll probably be doing a lot of tidying.
Any AD&D books, let me know.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm specifically looking for anything Sonic related, so like Dark Sun Will in the Way or Dragon Kings or anything like that. If you just, or actually an AD&D PHB, I've got one on its way to me, but it's like the black cover kind of revised edition ones. So I take the one with the guy with the horse on the cover.
Yeah.
Well, if I have 200 quid in my pocket, I'll definitely pick one of those up for you.
It shouldn't be that, like they're not that much. They really aren't.
I hope not. That's just,
let me know if it's there. I
let a copy of Deities and Demigods slip through my hands once.
That's different.
I'll never forget it.
That's first edition. That's got ladies in skimpy dresses on it. Like that's stuff.
Yeehaw.
That's the stuff you're going to pay for.
All right, and now I'm definitely stopping this. Goodbye, folks. Dave, what do you do for the weekend?
Mostly tidying today. We've sadly neglected it. This week.
Adult stuff, I know. Oh well, look, put on a podcast. Take it easy, folks.
See you now.
Bye bye.
Take care. Enjoy.